Welcome. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
Thanks, Harlan. And this is where we are right now. So this week's portion is actually a double portion of Mattot and Menasseh. Mattot refers to the tribes of Israel. It starts off discussing vows and specifically the annulment of vows, because sometimes we make commitments and we mean them when we make them, and then afterwards we have regrets about them. And it talks about that situation. And the whole issue of annulment of vows is very much a part of legal halachic issues as to how one does that, because presumably what you say means a lot. Words matter a lot, a lot. And that is to say that there's a statement that says that the world, the universe, quaked when the commandment of thou, you shall not make a false oath, take a false oath, was issued as one of the Ten
Yeah,
Commandments.
yeah,
Anyway,
but Rabbi, I thought the vows were extinguished at Yom Kippur.
no, no, not automatically. The only what we're asking God to do is to anticipate those specific kinds of vows uh, that we don't really, that we may say or may sound like a vow, but we don't mean at the time. But the formal vows that we take still count. So, I probably could do some more research on that as to exactly what that means. But basically, we're talking about the vows that we've forgotten about, things like that. But our word has to be our bond. And I know actually that the Jewish people were, uh, in some cultures, very much, criticized for that, for the understanding people had that a Jew's word did not count because it was annulled on Yom Kippur. But that's not what we're talking about. We are talking about those situations where we say we're going to do something, because even if we just say we're going to do something or hint that we're going to do something, it may be understood as a vow. We are supposed to be really, really, really concerned about it. Well, interestingly enough, now we have moved on into the portion. By the way, well, just to for completeness, Mas'eh, the second portion, deals with the journeys of the children of Israel through the wilderness. We are still on the Parsha of Mattot, and here we're talking. We started this the last time we did this about the fact that we know that the Israelites were able to conquer Sichon and Og, the land of the Amorites, which was actually on the east of the Jordan River and was not originally supposed to be part of the land of Canaan and where the Israelites were going to inherit. And because the Israelites had conquered this area and it was good for sheep rearing, cattle rearing, these tribes of Reuben and Gad and half the tribe of Menasseh came to Moses and said, we would like to take this area as our portion. And Moses was very, very concerned because he felt that if these particular tribes did not participate in the conquest of the land, because that was obviously, an awesome kind of task coming up ahead, that essentially that would affect the rest of the Israelites, and they wouldn't want to follow through on that. So the tribes say to him, basically, no, we're going to make sure that we leave our children, our wives and children and cattle and everything's here in this area, and we will go along with the fighters and conquer the land. At least that's what Moses tells them they need to do. Okay. And he makes them essentially swear to that. So it's interesting that even though we've had some other issues that have come up between the opening of our Parsha and this particular section, we are also talking about making commitments. And we are in the midst of the statement of the tribes of Reuben and Gad and the half tribe of Manasseh, where they're making this particular promise. And it's used as a formula in a way for how vows need to be made. In other words, that one makes the commitment to do something, And one also says, and if I don't do it, this will also be the consequence. In other words, to state a vow both positively and negatively. In other words, when you make a formal vow, do you just need to make it positively? Is that enough? Or do you also have to say what's going to happen if you don't fulfill the vow, what those consequences are going to be? So we're in the midst of this statement, and here we are. Verse 18, chapter 32. Lo nashuv el batenu, we will not return to our homes, ad hitnachel bnei Yisrael ish nachalato, until every son of Israel, if we want to translate it that way, right, has been able to come into his own inheritance. There is, let's see, there's no Rashi until verse 19. So onwards. Ki lo ninchal itam. Why? Because we will not take possession with them, me'ever layaden, across the Jordan, meaning here in this case, the west side of the Jordan, Vahala and onwards. Ki va'anachalatenu elenu, because our inheritance, our portion, is coming to us, me'ever hayaden mizracha, on the other side of the Jordan, on the east. Right, on the east side of the Jordan. Vayomer Alehem Moshe. So Moses, so this is the commitment they're making, right? Moses said to them, Im ta'asun et hadavar hazeh, if you fulfill this statement, this matter, im ta, and he states what it is.
Are
Im,
you going to do the Rashi on the other state one?
oh yes,
I
sorry.
think you moved into another Parsha.
You're right, and yeah, you're right. I didn't realize I'd already
I mean,
moved.
another,
Yes, yes,
yeah.
yes. I didn't
Okay.
realize I'd done it. Right. Okay. Me'ever Yiladain. Thanks, Lauren. I didn't even realize that I had moved past 19. Me'ever Yardain, over on the other side of the Jordan, Be'ever Hama'aravi, meaning in that case, when they're talking Ever Yardain, he means on the west side. Okay. Normally, when we talk about Transjordan, we are talking about the east side of the Jordan. And so that's why Rashi, I believe, wants to clarify what we mean here. Ki va'anachalatenu, so for our inheritance has come, literally is what it means. Kvar ki balnuha, we have already received it, be'ever hamizrachi, on the east side. And I think that is it for the Rashi on 19. Thank you. So, so now we can go on to verse 20. Vayomer Alehem Moshe, and Moses said to them, Im ta'asun et hadavar hazeh, if you fulfill this matter, this thing, Im techalzu lifnei Hashem, if you gird yourselves before the Lord, the milchama, for battle, and this is, you may have heard of the term chalitza, right? Referring to the removal of a shoe in a case of a levirate marriage. So lachalutz, right? It's the same root of removal, right? It has that idea. So here it means, in other words, you will separate yourselves to go as shock troops, as you'll see, is what it's meaning. So, and or if it means here, it could mean, just a thought, that it means that they are separating themselves away from their family. Now, I haven't seen that as a comment, but it's a thought that I have because of this word lechalotz, meaning to separate. But it also can mean to gird yourself. Right? It does have that meaning as well. So again, he's clarifying the terms of this commitment. Va'avar lachem kol chalutz, and each one of your chalutzim. The word chalutz is also used to mean a scout. So again, the idea of going ahead, of serving as a forward, as a shock trooper, as a full, the initial forward trooper, and cross over the Jordan, Lifnei Hashem, before the Lord. Oh, also, I want to comment that we've had this Lifnei Hashem now for the second time. And excuse me one moment. Okay, hold on a second. All right. Uh, 1 second, please. There we go. All right, we've had this phrase Lifnei Hashem, and I think the idea here is he's telling them, he's communicating to them that what they're saying is a sacred vow, that this commitment they're making is before God, that God is there to make sure that the truth is being said and that they will in fact fulfill this, right? Ad horisho et oivav mipanav, until they have dispossessed their enemies from before them, or before him, right? And again, mipanav could refer again to God. In other words, whose enemies, who are we talking about here? So there's definitely that sense that it isn't necessarily, let's see, yeah, because the subject is before God, right? That's the one that's closest to, they have dispossessed his enemies from before him. So the idea here that if it weren't for the fact that these people had so rejected God, that is the Canaanites, and acted in such a awful kind of way, the Israelites would never have had the right to go and do what they were doing. I certainly don't want to infer any elements of self-righteousness here. And the truth is that in Deuteronomy, Moses pretty much tells them it's not because they're so righteous, but because of how awful these people have been behaving, these Canaanites have been behaving, and that, of course, they're going to be no exception if they fall into that kind of practice. So going on, v'nichbasha haaretz, so that the land is conquered. And look at this again, this phrase, lifnei Adonai. So we've had lifnei Adonai, we've had lifnei Adonai, lifnei Adonai, right? Notice how he's emphasizing this. V'achar tashuva, and after that, so he says, it's conquered, and after that you shall return. V'hayitem nekiyim me'Hashem me'umi Yisrael, and you will be cleared of God and from Israel. V'hayta ha'aretz hazot lachem, and this land shall now become for you la'achuzah, as an inheritance. Lifnei Hashem, again another lifnei Hashem. All these times, right? So interesting. Exactly all those implications of what is meant by Moses repeating this phrase constantly. So that's provided they fulfill their commitment, right? Okay, going on, and let's see. The next Rashi is going to be 24. But now he goes on, as I said, but if you do not perform, Cain, this, if you do not do this, hinecha tatem lashem, and again, lashem, right? Behold, you have sinned before God. Udu chatatchem, and recognize, right? And you'll experience, you will understand your sin, asher timsa etchem, which will find, literally, it will find you, it'll overtake you. So you'll bear the consequences, is what he's saying to them. So he said that's all he says as far as that's concerned, regarding their not fulfilling the vow. Benu lachem arim letavchem. He goes on to be specific, right, as to how they're to fulfill this vow now. So build for you arim letavchem, cities for your children, ugederot letzonachem, and pens or fences. A gader is a fence. Pens letzonachem, for your sheep. V'hayotze mipichem tasu, and that which emerges from your mouths, practice, do it. What's come out of your mouths, do. 24. Letzonachem. So Rashi's commenting now on the grammar of this, of why it's not letzonchem, but letzon achem. There's this aleph here, and he's trying to explain why isn't it just letzonchem. Teva zo migzerat. Okay, so he says this letter aleph, is from the form of the word in Psalm 8, soneh v'alafim kulam. It's actually one of the most beautiful psalms, Psalm 8, and it's basically, it says, when I look at the heavens and the stars that you have created, etc., what are we in your sight? It's just a very short but beautiful psalm, but it talks about God's creation, and it says soneh, right? Or it's got this hey, meaning sheep, for alafim, cattle, all of them. She'ein bo aleph, right? Now there's no aleph in that word soneh. Mafsik bein nun letzadi, right? So there's no aleph. The word son very often is spelled tzadik aleph nun, right? And he's saying there is no aleph between the tzadik and the nun, all right? The aleph sheba kan, and he says here, this aleph that comes after the nun, right? That comes here, achar hanun, which comes after the nun, b'makom hey shel tzonehu, and it is simply another form of the term for sheep, and it comes to replace the hey in the word tzoneh. And the letters aleph, hey, vav, and yud, those four letters, very often are interchangeable depending on the way in which the word is being formed. And so here, this tzon achem is coming to take the place of the hey in the form of the word for sheep, tzoneh, right? And Rashi gives his source of this, right? That his authority on which he is saying this. Miyisodo shel Rabbi Moshe Hadashan lamadati chen. This is not the first time he is referred to this teacher, Moshe Hadarshan, Moses, the interpreter. He said, I learned this from the foundations of Rabbi Moshe Hadarshan. Meaning, so here's a precursor to Rashi, an early interpreter of Torah, explaining this. And I don't know, of course, if this was actually a teacher of Rashi, or whether it was a manuscript that Rashi had and that he learned from. Okay. V'hayotze mipichem ta'asu, and that which comes out of your mouth, perform, do it. Lagavoha, before the one on high. In other words, right, this is like, as I said, a sacred commitment, a sacred oath you are taking. Shekibaltem alechem la'avor lemilchama, that you have accepted upon yourselves, you've taken upon yourselves to cross over, to do battle, ad kibush v'chiluk, right, until the kibush means the conquest and the division. Shemoshe lo bikesh mehem. Why? Because if we look carefully at what Moses was asking of them before they made the commitment, he asked of them, mehem ela v'nichbasha. He only asked for them to be that the land be conquered. V'achar tashuva, and he said, after it's conquered, after that you can return. V'hem kiblu alehem, but they accepted upon themselves. They made a commitment on themselves. Ad titnachel, right, or al hitnachel. In other words, not only would it be conquered, but also divided amongst the tribes. Hare hosifu lehitakev sheva. So, in fact, these people who went across to serve as shock troopers, they delayed another 7 years, shechalku, that it took to divide up the land. V'chein asu, and in fact, they performed it. They did it. They went above and beyond the commitment that Moses had asked of them, and they honored the commitment they took upon themselves. So this is the added, right? Vayomer b'nei Gad uvnei Reuven el Moshe lemor, and the children of God and the children of Reuven said to Moses in these words. Now, it isn't, the b'nei is plural, right? The children, but Vayomer is singular, and Rashi's going to pick up on that. So they said to Moses, Avadecha ya'asu, your servants will perform, will do, kasher Adoni mitzaveh, just as, and again, this is singular, my Lord commands. And here Lord is referring to Moses. We accept upon ourselves the commitment that you have made on us. Let's take a look here. So Vayomer B'nai Gad. So B'nai Gad plural, Vayomer singular. Kulam ki ish echad. Why is it in the singular? Because they said it as one man. They said it, every one of them. It was unanimous. Here we go. Tapenu nashemu, our children and our wives. Miknenu, our cattle. Our flocks, V'chol behemtenu, and all our cattle. Yusham ba'arei hagilad. They shall remain there in the cities of Gilead. V'avadecha yavru, and while your servants will cross over, kol chalutz tzava, each one as a scout or as a shock trooper, lifnei Hashem, before Hashem, and they're using this expression, lifnei Hashem, la milchama, to do battle, kasher Adoni dover, just as literally it's my Lord speaks, commands, but it speaks, it's not mitzaveh, right? It says. But again, speaks. Vaitzav lahem Moshe, and Moses commanded and literally it means over them or for them. Eight Elazar HaKohen. Elazar HaKohen, remember Aaron has departed this world already, and Elazar has taken his place. Ve'et Yoshua bin Nun, and Joshua son of Nun. Ve'et Rashi Avot HaMattot, and the heads of the various tribes, Livnei Israel, of the children of Israel. So Moses put someone in charge to make sure that this, in fact, would be followed through. Vayitzav lahem, and he commanded, literally means he commanded to them. But here it means kamo alehem. Here it means lahem means over them. V'al tan'am, and regarding the agreement they had made, the conditions they had made, Mina Elazar v'Yehoshua, and he appointed Elazar and Joshua to make sure they fulfilled their commitment. See, make sure there's nothing more. Yeah, here we go. Kamo, just as in example of this lamed used in this particular way, in Exodus chapter 14, Hashem yilcham lachem, right? So the Lord will do battle, lachem, literally to, but here it means for you, for you. Make sure I've got this. Okay. Let's make sure we've got the place here, right here. Vayomer, let's make sure. Yes. Vayomer Moshe alahem, and Moses said further to them, Im ya'avu v'nei Gad uvnei Reuben itchem et hayadem. So this is what he said to Elazar and to Joshua and to these people. Moses said to them, if the children of God and the children of Reuben cross over with you et hayarden, the Jordan, kol chalutz lemilchamo, each shock trooper or scout to do battle, lifnei Hashem. And again, look at this phrase, right? Before Hashem, before the Lord, v'nichpasha haaretz lifnechem, and the land is conquered before you, u'natatem lahem et eretz hagilgad la'achuzah. You shall provide for them the land of Gilead as an inheritance. Ve'im lo ya'avru chalutzim itchem, but if they do not cross over with you as shock troopers, nochazu betochachem be'eretz Canaan, they will gain their holdings, they will receive their holdings with you in the land of Canaan. So just want to make sure I have all the yashis. Vaya'anu v'nei Gad uvnei Reuven le'ivur, and the children of God and the children of Reuven spoke up and said, Et asher diber Hashem al avadecha tein na'aseh. That which the Lord has spoken to your servants, thus shall we do. And Nachnu na'avor chalutzim, we will cross over as shock troops, Yifnei Hashem, before the Lord, Eretz Canaan, into the land of Canaan, Ve'itanu achuzat nachalatenu me'ever Yarden. But for us, our holdings, right, our inheritance, the portion of our inheritance is going to be on the other side of the Jordan. So, Ve'itanu achuzat nachalatenu, but with us, our portion, of our inheritance, Kumar, beyadenu uverishutenu tehi achuzat nachalatenu, in other words, in our hands, in our possession, and under our authority, right, will be the holdings of our inheritance. Be'ever hazeh will be on this particular side. Make sure okay. Oh yeah. All right. Finding the place. Okay. Vayiten lahem Moshe livnei Gad v'livnei Reuben l'chatzi shevet Menasseh. So they don't mention the half tribe of Menasseh every single time, but I think we can understand that it is included in these three groups because it's the half tribe or half of the tribe of Menasseh. So, and Moses gave to them, that is to the children of God, the children of Reuben, and the half tribe of Menasseh, Ben Yosef, son of Joseph, et Mamlechet Sichon, Mamlechet, the kingdom of Sichon Melech HaEmori, king of the Amorites, Vet Mamlechet Og Melech HaBashan, and the kingdom of Og, king of Bashan, Haaretz La'areha, the land and its cities, Bigvulot, and within the boundaries, Areha Aretz Aviv, Areha Aretz Aviv, and the cities of the land surrounding. So I think what it's saying here is that it was talking about not only the walled cities or the main cities, but also the areas around it, the suburbs, so to speak. Vayivnu v'nei Gad et Divon ve'et Atarot ve'et Aroer, and the children of God built up Divon, name of a town, et Atarot, another town, ve'et Aroer, these are names of towns, ve'et Atrot Shofan, ve'et Yazer v'Yogbaha. So these are just names of specific towns that they built up. Ve'et Beit Nimra, ve'et Beit Beit Haran and Beit Haran, Arei Mivtzar V'Gidrot Tzon, right? So they built them as fortified cities and pens for sheep. And I think I'm going to stop right here, and we'll, God willing, finish this up tomorrow, and we will finish up then I keep saying tractate, but I mean the Parsha of Mattot, and we will, God willing, get started with the Parsha of Menasseh. So that is it for now. I'm going to stop the share. And if there are any questions for the record or any comments for the record. Okay. All right. Stop.